Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, be honest with me. Have you ever felt just totally overwhelmed by the constant uncertainties of modern life? Between the fluctuating economy, worrying about what other people think of you, or just the sheer unpredictability of the future, it can be a lot. If you're nodding your head right now, you are definitely not alone. But what if the ultimate antidote to all that modern anxiety was actually written down almost 2,000 years ago? Today, we are exploring a profoundly practical philosophical framework called the Dichotomy of Control. It's a mental model that is so universally effective, it's not only used by modern psychologists, but, as you'll see a bit later, it's literally being used right now by Google's artificial intelligence researchers. To start things off, I really want to pose this central question to you. What do you actually control? Take a second and really think about it. We naturally feel like we have agency over our bodies, our careers, our reputations, right? Like you diet and hit the gym, so you control your body. You work late and put in the effort, so you control your career trajectory. But if we look a little closer, that perception is actually deeply flawed. You don't control your genetics, you definitely don't control the inevitable march of time or getting a sudden illness. You don't control the massive macroeconomic shifts that might suddenly eliminate your job or the subjective hidden biases of the people judging your reputation. Okay, let's dive into this. Because this realization is the absolute core of the Stoic philosophy developed by Epictetus. He essentially divided the entire world into two very strict buckets: things that are up to us and things that are not up to us. So, what's up to us? Our opinions, our motivations, our desires, our aversions, basically our own voluntary actions and conscious thoughts. And what's not up to us? Well, our bodies, our property, our reputations, our positions in life, and ultimately, the final outcomes of our efforts. Mistaking our individual contributions for absolute control over the final outcome is pretty much the root cause of so much of our daily frustration. As Epictetus famously put it in his handbook, the Enchiridion, some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation. When we pin our hopes on the second half of that list, the things firmly outside our power, we become weak, we become dependent, and we become incredibly anxious. But when we focus entirely on that first half, that is when we become truly free. Now, the specific Greek term the Stoics used for this internal power is prohairesis. It roughly translates to your faculty of choice, or your moral purpose. You can think of it like your mind's rational ruling center. This right here is the core of what a human being actually is. It's that complex internal control center where we make our commitments, where our habits are formed, and where we decide exactly what we're going to do with the things that are actually up to us. To really grasp how this works, the Stoics used this absolutely brilliant analogy: the archer. Imagine a master archer lining up a shot. They control their stance, they control how they draw the bow, their aim, and the exact moment they release the string. That effort is completely 100% up to them. But the very second that arrow leaves the bow, the outcome is completely out of their hands. A sudden gust of wind could blow the arrow off course, the target itself might move. The arrow's final destination is simply not up to the archer. So the crucial takeaway here is that a true master archer attaches their self-worth and their satisfaction entirely to their effort, aiming the best they possibly can, and then that they calmly accept whatever happens to the arrow. Part 1. Making it work, from theory to practice. Now, there is a huge misconception out there that adopting the dichotomy of control means living a passive life, or just shrugging and ignoring massive societal problems. Not at all. It just means attaching your satisfaction to doing your absolute best. So how do we actually turn this into an actionable checklist for everyday life? We can break it down into these 5 clear steps. First, identify and list the things causing you stress, and consciously sort them into controllable and uncontrollable buckets. Second, reflect on those uncontrollables and make an active decision to release your mental grip on them. Third, act. Create a robust, actionable plan for the things you can control. Fourth, adjust your perspective so you're focusing on the process rather than agonizing over the outcome. And finally, practice mindfulness to stay grounded in the present moment rather than worrying about an unpredictable future. Part 2. The ripple effects, interactions, and well-being. You see, applying this dichotomy literally transforms how we handle conflicts, how we interact with difficult individuals, and it does wonders for our own mental health. Take Megan, for example. She was terrified about an upcoming job interview.
Instead of spiraling about what the interviewers were going to think of her, which, again, she couldn't control, she poured all of her nervous energy entirely into her preparation. Or look at Walter, who was actually spat on by a drunk stranger. He couldn't control the stranger's actions, obviously, but he absolutely could control his judgment of the event. He simply relabeled the spit as dirty water in his mind, took a shower, and completely avoided a pointless and potentially dangerous physical fight. Then there's Shane, who faced a toxic workplace bully. He realized he couldn't control the bully's behavior or even his own initial flinch to it, but he could build up the psychological muscle to let those ruminative, angry thoughts go. In all three of these highly relatable cases, separating uncontrollable external events from their internal, controllable responses diffuse the conflict and completely preserve their peace of mind.
And we actually have the hard data to back this up. 0.51. This number comes straight from research conducted during Stoic Week 2022, which involved over 2,000 participants. The researchers found a striking statistical correlation of 0.51 between individuals who actively practiced controlling the controllables and high levels of human flourishing and life satisfaction. Plus, those who actively practice letting go of the things they couldn't control saw a massive boost in their positive emotions. So this isn't just nice-sounding ancient theory. It is a highly effective, measurable, psychological tool. This really brings to mind the profound realization of Viktor Frankl. He was a 20th century psychiatrist who survived the unimaginable horrors of Nazi concentration camps. He wrote this powerful observation: "Everything can be taken from a person, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." No matter how extreme the external adversity gets, that internal ruling center, that prohairesis we talked about earlier, remains entirely yours to command.
Part 3, a modern surprise. Stoicism in artificial intelligence.
Okay, prepare for a pretty fascinating pivot here. The underlying logic behind the dichotomy of control is so fundamentally sound that it recently solved a massive problem in artificial intelligence. In a paper published by researchers at Google and UC Berkeley, they were trying to train AI models by conditioning the AI on achieving a specific, highly desired future outcome. But they ran into a huge problem. If the environment was highly random, or what they call stochastic, the AI would learn all the wrong lessons. It would try to rely on random, lucky changes in its environment rather than solid, consistent decision-making. Basically, it failed because it was trying to control the uncontrollable. The researchers' solution? They built a framework literally named the Dichotomy of Control. And this brilliantly illustrates how they mathematically constrained the AI so that it only focused its learning on its own controllable actions. They completely separated its internal policy from the random, uncontrollable transitions of the environment. Just like Epictetus' archer, they forced the AI to focus entirely on its aim and its stance and to completely ignore the wind. And by doing exactly this, the AI achieved significantly better performance.
So, whether we're talking about an ancient Roman slave-turned-philosopher or cutting-edge machine learning algorithms, the core truth remains exactly the same. Trying to control the uncontrollable breaks the system. And that applies whether that system is a complex neural network or your own mind. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Think about the one thing that is stressing you out the most right now. Got it? Now, how would that stressor change if you completely relinquished your demand for a specific outcome and instead put 100% of your energy purely into your own effort and your own attitude? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this helps you focus on your aim and let the arrows fly.